Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the volume of prisms. Now there are different types of prisms. The main ones we're going to look at are rectangular prisms and triangular prisms. Now a rectangular prism is basically going to be just like a box. Okay, I made these when I was at Auburn. One of my math classes, it was basically teaching us how to teach math, and they were showing us different resources, and they call these manipulatives, things that you can touch and hold that help you teach math. So, I mean, I made these maybe like 2 years ago probably, and I've hung on to them. I'm glad I did. So this is what we would call a rectangular prism. It's a 3D shape, obviously, and the base, or one of the faces of it, is what shape? Rectangle. It's a rectangle. So it's a 3D rectangle or rectangular prism, or, you know, looks like a box. Now you can also have this kind of shape, which is called a what? Cube. This is a cube. But when we're looking at finding the volume, we're going to use the same formula, because cubes and rectangular prisms, though they have different measurements, they still have the same number of sides. So we're going to use the same formula to find their volume. So those are going to kind of go together. And then the other type of prism we're going to look at is a triangular prism. So its base is a what? Rectangle. It's a rectangle, but the top of it, well, and two of its faces are also rectangles, but the other sides are triangles. So this is what we would call a triangular prism. I was going to try to bring in like real objects that were shaped like these shapes, but I didn't have time to really look through my house and see what I had. But if you guys have ever seen those Toblerone chocolate candy bars that are in like the yellow box, that's a triangular prism. It's shaped like this. Okay? So when we're talking about volume, does anyone know what that means? Yeah, so it's like what could go inside of this, or the amount of space that it takes up. Okay? When we looked at a 2D shape, or just a flat shape, we looked at the area, which is just how much space it took up just within the shape. But with volume, it's talking about like what could fit inside of it. Okay? So we're going to be looking at these specific shapes today. Okay, so the first thing we need to look at is just what is volume? What's the definition of volume? Okay? I should have grabbed your pen ahead of time. 1 second. Okay, so volume is the number of cubic units. Volume is the number of cubic units needed to fill a space. Volume is the number of cubic units needed to fill a space. So if you remember when we were talking about area, we would always write our answer in the units squared. So we were talking about square units, okay? But with volume, we're talking about cubic units, or our unit cubed. So what that looks like is, like, if we were to find the volume, it would be maybe 30 inches cubed. That's what we would call a cubic unit, or this would be cubic inches. Okay? So with area, we learned that we always square our answer. So with volume, we're always going to do what? Cube it. We're always going to cube our answer. We square or cube. Okay? All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is the volume of rectangular prisms, which remember was like a box. Okay? So we're going to be trying to figure out how much could fit inside, or how many cubic units would be needed to fill this box. Okay? All right, so the formula to find the volume of rectangular prisms, this is probably one of the easiest ones. So volume, we're going to use a V, whereas area we use what? An A. So volume is going to equal the length times the width times the height. What does this kind of remind you of?
The area of a rectangle is where?
So the area of a rectangle is what?
It's length times width.
Length times width. So to find the volume, we're just adding this third dimension to it. We're adding height to it. Okay? So, like I said, the V is going to stand for what?
Volume.
Volume. What was the L?
Length.
The length. What's the W? Width. And the H? It's going to be height. Okay? So when I'm looking at a rectangular prism, the length is going to be this longest side here. Okay, so however long the prism actually is, that'll be my length. The width is going to be the shorter side. So basically, if you were to look at the top of the prism, this would be the length, this would be the width, just like when we looked at a rectangle. And then the height is going to be this side here, or it's like how tall it is. So if you were to set it down, it would be this measurement here. Okay? So you've got the length, the width, and the height. Are we all good on that? Okay? So let's look at an example. Let's say my length, which is this longer side, is 80 inches. And my width, which is this shorter side, is 36 inches. And my height, or how tall it is 20 inches. And I want to find the volume. Remember, what do I always tell you to do every time you're solving these problems, Skylar? Write the formula. So the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is what? Length times width times height. Good. Okay, and all you've got to do here is just plug in the values for each of our variables. So we're looking for the volume. What's my length? 80. What's my width? 36. And what's my height? 20. So now all we've got to do is multiply those three together.
57,600.
Yeah, you should get 57,600. Now, how am I going to write my units?
Oh, 57,600 inches. 3 cubic.
Cubed. We say, when we're talking about area, we would say inches squared. When we're talking about volume, we would say inches cubed. So repeat that. Our volume is 57,600 inches cubed. Tell me what the volume is.
57,600 inches cubed.
Cubed. Not 3. That makes me cringe. I want to flip a table when I hear that. Cubed. Okay? Any questions so far? It's really not too bad. Let's look at another example. We'll do this one together, and then we'll do the third one you can do by yourself. Okay? All right, so here we have a length of 9 centimeters. So remember this length right here. A width of 9 centimeters and a height of 2 centimeters. Okay? So remember, volume is equal to what?
Cubic.
What's the formula? Length times width times height. So if I plug all that in, I will have 9 times 9 times 2
162 centimeters cubic.
cubed. Cubed. You're going to have 162 centimeters cubed. Or, Brennan, the other way you could say it is 162 cubic centimeters. So it's either centimeters cubed or cubic centimeters. Okay? You want to try one on your own?
Yeah.
All right. Try that one. We've got a length of 26 inches, a width of 11 inches, and a height of 13 inches. Take just a couple minutes to do that one. Okay. What is the volume or the formula to find the volume of a rectangular prism? Jeremy? What's the formula? Length times width times height. So when I plug everything in, don't give me the answer, just what I'm going to be multiplying together. What would I have, Edith? I'm going to have 26 times 11 times 13. So what's my final answer going to be, Jonathan? Good. 3,718 inches cubed, or 3,000, oh sorry, that looks like a 2. What's a 3? 3,718 cubic inches. Either one is fine. Okay? How are we feeling about finding the volume of a rectangular prism? Good. Good. Now, like I said, I didn't have any specific examples using a cube, but tell me, if I'm going to multiply length times width times height, what are the sides going to be?
They're all going to be the same.
They're all going to be the same. So this might be an inch long. So if I wanted to find the volume, I would do the length times the width times the height, 1 times 1 times 1, and it would just happen to be 1 inch cubed. What if all of my sides were 2 inches? I would do 2 times 2 times 2, which would give me what? 8. Give me 8 inches cubed. So a cube is going to be the same as the rectangular prism. Your side lengths are just all going to be the same. Okay, we good on that? This right here in my hand is a cube. Oops, sorry. A little close to the camera. Like my little drawer thing. I would say that's more of a rectangular prism. It's not quite square. But, yeah, good observation. Okay, let's move on to finding the volume of triangular prisms. Okay, so remember, this is a triangular prism. Okay, it's got a rectangular base and 2 rectangular faces, and then it has 2 triangular faces on the end. And just so I make sure I cover this, remember the sides of a 3D object are called what? like this side here, they're called
Faces.
faces. What are the points called?
Faces.
The points. They are vertices, right? One vertex, multiple vertices. What about this part right here, like this place where it comes together?
The connector.
It's the edge. That's all it is, just the edge. Okay?
What would a cylinder be called?
A cylinder.
I know, but would it like a cylinder?
No, just a cylinder. Yeah, we'll look at that tomorrow. Okay, so the formula for the volume of triangular prisms, there are two different formulas, but they accomplish the same thing. So I'm going to show you both of them, but just know that you can use either one. So the first one, which I'm going to say is the one I would suggest using. You will multiply length times width times height divided by 2. Okay? Length times width times height divided by 2.
Oh, if we're just doing that one, do we have to write the other one so we don't get confused?
I'm going to write it, but when we do the examples, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so you could do that, or if you're looking at the edge, remember we've got a triangle here. So the other way you could do this is do base times height divided by 2, which would be the area of this triangle, times the length, which would be this part here. That's just an alternative. I prefer length times width times height divided by 2. Okay? Okay, so this first example we're going to do, we've got a length, which would be this edge here, a length of 2.8 meters, a width, which I'm pretty sure is going to be this bottom edge here, how wide the base is 4.2 meters, and then the height, which you know would be the height of the triangle, is 5 meters. Okay? So if I use my formula, length times width times height divided by 2, all I've got to do is just plug everything in and solve. Okay? So what's my length? 2.8. 2.8. What's my width? 4.2. And what's my height? Now, is that all I do?
No.
No. I've got to divide by 2. Now, I would suggest multiplying the numbers on the top first, getting your answer, then dividing by 2. Okay, so when I multiply 2.8 times 4.2 times 5, what do I get? Skylar? 58.8. Is that my final answer? No, I have to divide by 2. And when I do that, what do I get? 29.4. What would my final answer be? 29.4 cubic meters or meters cubed. When we're talking about volume, we're always going to write our units cubed. Okay? All right, let's do another one together, and then I'll let you do one on your own. Okay, so on this one, I've got a length of 4.3 feet, a width of 8.2 feet. That might be backwards. The length is going to be the longer side, so that might be different. But then the height is going to be 9 feet. Okay? So my formula is going to be length times width times height, divided by 2. When I plug in all of those values, what's it going to say before I multiply it out? So when I plug in the numbers, what am I going to multiply together? Yep. And then I'm going to do what? Divide all of that by 2. Okay, so when I multiply 4.3 times 8.2 times 9 together, what do I get? 317 and 34 hundredths divided by 2. 158.67 what? Good. Good. Okay, any questions? All right, I'm going to let you do this last one on your own. Remember to rewrite the formula before you start. There's more I have to teach. Like I've said before, the hardest thing about this stuff is going to be remembering these formulas. That's why I would highly suggest making flashcards.
Can you write it on your own?
No. I might even go so far as to make a Quizlet for you with the formulas. You just have to go look at it. But we'll see. Okay. Zoe, what's the formula? Okay, when I plug in my values, before I multiply them together, before I divide, before I do any of that, what's my formula going to look like? Amen?
5 times
Amen.
5 times 6 times 12.
Good. Okay, so now 5 times 6 times 12 will give me what? Hearts? Hearts? 5 times 6 times 12. 360. Is that my answer though?
No.
No, I have to divide by 2, which will give me what?
180 meters.
Yes, 180 meters cubed or 180 cubic meters. Okay, are there any questions on that? Sounds like y'all are getting that pretty well. So remind me one more time, what's the formula to find the volume of a rectangular prism? Length times width times height. What about for a triangular prism? Good.